The following program is a paid presentation from the California Elder Law Center. The information and opinions expressed herein are solely those of the California Elder Law Center and are not the opinions of K-News, Alpha Media, management, or employees.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Elder Answers. This is the show where we get together every week and we discuss the major issues facing seniors in the United States today. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael McGuire, and I'm an elder law attorney with the California Elder Law Center. And you're listening to Elder Answers. And we all owe all of you loyal listeners a big thank you for making this one of the top-rated radio shows every Saturday morning. If you have a friend or a neighbor or somebody from church or an organization you belong to that's facing some of the issues of long-term care or how to get benefits or should I really go through the trouble of getting a trust and do I need a trust or should I get a will or what should I do? You might want to tell them, listen, why don't you listen in to Elder Answers every Saturday morning, and they can give you some information that you might want to be able to apply to your personal situations by perhaps reaching out and participating in an online workshop, perhaps going onto our website, or perhaps arranging for a consultation in our office with an elder law attorney. Our website is pretty easy to find. It's www.cal-elder-law.com. That's cal-elder-law.com. We try to put as much information on there as we can and keep you abreast of what's going on, and lots is going on. You know, the issues facing seniors in the United States today is getting to be sort of critical. There's a recent article here in which there's been yet another outbreak in terms of seniors that are in nursing homes being subjected to an extraordinary amount of infection rate from COVID-19. Now, each and every one of us has to deal with the new world that we live in. And I will tell you unequivocally, those of you that have taken the time and the effort to be a little bit introspective, to think about what's important to you, to your family. Can I protect somebody? Can I protect myself? Can I protect my spouse? Can I protect my children from being burdened by my problems if I do get ill? Those people are much better prepared to deal with what's going on out there in the world today because they have given the authority to somebody in their family to take care of business when the time comes. Without that authority, we're in a very painful and constrained environment right now. Now, you do have rights. You do have rights if you are in a facility, whether that's an assisted living or even a board care, or if it's in a nursing home or the hospital. You do have rights as far as having access to your family. But you have to be practical about this, is that, a lot of these places are very, very stressed right now in terms of trying to take care of the patient load and what's been going on. And so it is becoming more and more of a responsibility for you and I to be thinking about ourselves, our spouses, or our families, and making sure that we've put our house in order. It's going to make a tremendous difference when a crisis comes if that part of this calculation has been taken care of ahead of time. That the people that you want are authorized to help you, to protect each other. Without that, we're really confronted with some serious limitations now because of the COVID environment. And the classic is that so many of these documents need to be notarized to be effective, and we don't have the capacity to get into these facilities and get people to sign documents and notarize them, given the crisis that we're in, the pandemic. So that's why I think it's important for you to have a basic idea of what these documents are and to have a basic idea of what you need to do to protect yourself, to protect your family, to, if it's possible, to access public benefits that may allow you to free up your savings and your income to upgrade the quality of your care. And that's what we're always focused on here at the California Elder Law Center, is how to get the quality of care that you need and deserve and not go broke doing it. That's a motto we've lived by for 25 years and delivered to thousands of families throughout Southern California, is the ability to rest easy that you're going to have enough to take care of if somebody's in medical crisis without worrying about where the documents are or how do we get access to the checking account. Those are the kind of things you want to take care of ahead of time. Those are the things you want to sit down and talk to people about in your family. Because you really need to come up with the answer to two different questions if you want to know the truth. When you're dealing with your care and you going through this phase of your life as a senior. The first question is how am I going to pay for the care? That's a real dilemma for middle-class families, considering how incredibly expensive care has become here in the United States. Now, in addition to that question and answer, there's one that I always have considered to be far more important. And that question is it who's going to take care of you? Who have you delegated that authority to? Who do you trust enough to deal with these kinds of issues for you? Now, sometimes you may need to use a professional from outside of the family, given that they're not here, or sometimes you have somebody who's living in the area or somebody who will respond immediately to make sure you're okay. So those are the kinds of issues you want to be talking about, thinking about, and being prepared for in the days ahead. This is Michael McGuire, elder law attorney with the California Elder Law Center. Now, over and over again, people ask this simple question about why is this such an important issue as far as I'm concerned? Why should I be concerned about whether or not I have the money to pay for care? Why should I be concerned about if I have a situation set up that I do or don't have somebody in mind and have talked to them about who's going to take care of me? Why do all these things need to be addressed today, now? And I'll tell you why. This is when you want to sit down with somebody and go through this. And people give us a call all the time at 760-422-0404. 422-0404. And what they're calling us about is this, is that I'm not too sure where I stand. I don't know what I should be doing, but here's what I want. And this is what people say over and over again. When you go to any kind of a focus group and talk to seniors, this is what they all say. And they say it in the same sequence, which was pretty interesting as well. When they're asked about what's really important to you, what's the most important thing to you, they all say the same thing, and that's, I want to stay at home. I want to stay here in the comfort, the safety of my home. Now, that requires many times later in our lives that we have to give some serious consideration about where are we going to come up with the money to pay for care at home. If care at home costs $28 an hour, sort of on average here in Southern California, where do I get that kind of money? If I need somebody to be here all day, 8 hours, when it becomes overnight, it becomes prohibitive, of course. I've had clients that have spent $20,000 a month for their care around the clock in their home. But they wanted to, and they had the money, and they did. But that's not something that's going to be a viable choice for all of us, or for very many of us, to tell you the truth. And so you look for different ways to pay for that, number one, and you need to have different ways to determine who's the right vendor to provide those kind of services to you, and how do you find them, and where do you begin this process? So the first thing that most people are really concerned about deals with the issue of, I want to stay at home. The second thing that comes up almost universally is, I don't want to go broke. I don't want to end up a bag lady because I took care of my husband, that I paid all those bills all those years and determined that when that was all over, there wasn't anything left for me. You don't want to be in a situation in which you're down to your last monthly Social Security check to pay for your care, when that's not going to cover much, if anything at all. And so that second issue is, how do I avoid going broke, means that you have some kind of a plan in place that could access public benefits that might pay for all or some of your care and stay in a nursing home, in your home, or perhaps in a memory care unit, or even in an assisted living facility. And the third thing everybody says, everybody universally comes into our office, they've made an appointment, they called 422-0404, they made an appointment, they came in for a consultation, and they all say the same thing: is I don't want to be a burden on my children. I don't want to deliver my problems to the doorstep of my children. And the reason I don't want to do that is, number one, is I don't want to be seen as delivering and being irresponsible. I mean, I'm the one that raised them. I'm the one that put shoes on their feet and a shirt on their back, and I'm the one that got them educated, and I paid for the wedding, and I maybe paid for the divorce. You don't seem to ever be done with your children. And so the reality of this stuff is that I don't want to deliver that kind of a problem and intrude in their life or their lifestyle, or have them writing checks for me because I didn't take care of business when I had the opportunity to do that. And the way you have an opportunity to do that is to get yourself educated to what you are entitled to. And you are entitled to certain benefits that accrue to you through the federal government, and it comes to you a couple different ways. One of those benefits could be Medicare. Part of your health insurance will help to pay for your rehabilitation if you have to spend time in a nursing home. Part of it could be, in longer term, would be convalescent care. That would be paid for by Medi-Cal, and that would pay all or some of your stay in a nursing home. Or if you are a veteran, or you are the spouse of a veteran who has served in the military of the United States, you may be entitled to as much as $2,200 a month to help pay for your care to stay at home, or to defray the cost of going into independent living, or to be able to help pay for memory care. And in fact, that's a program that is so unique through the VA, it actually applies to an individual's spouse. And that spouse, would they need care, they could apply for the money, and they will receive a reduced amount, but nonetheless, they will also start getting tax-free checks every month to help defray the cost of their care. Now, this is a question of you becoming educated to these different programs, and that's what we do here on the show, that's what we do on the website, and that's what we do when you come in for a consultation. You can reach out to us at cal-elder-law.com or call 760-422-0404.
The cost of long-term care for yourself or a loved one can be financially devastating, but you can avoid going broke. That's how the California Elder Law Center will help you. You can access long-term care benefits through the VA, Medi-Cal, and other sources. But the process of getting those benefits can be daunting. That's where attorney Mick McGuire and the California Elder Law Center come to the rescue. Whether facing a hospital stay, currently in a rehab facility, an assisted living facility, or nursing home, immediate help is available. So now's the time to schedule an appointment for a free consultation. Our office is safe and virus-free. Call 760-422-0404. That's 760-422-0404. You'll learn so much about how to resolve your elder issues. It goes beyond paying for long-term care. With the help of an attorney at the California Elder Law Center, you can avoid the expense and delays of probate. You can protect your home, your family, and your assets. The system is complicated and frankly not user-friendly. But when you work with an attorney specializing in elder law, it's all so much easier. Call 760-422-0404 for a free meeting in our safe, virus-free office. That's 760-422-0404. Online, search Cal Elder Law. That's Cal Elder Law, helping you get the care you need and deserve. The California Elder Law Center.
This is Michael McGuire, Elder Law Attorney with the California Elder Law Center, talking to you today about the potential of developing some kind of a plan to answer the question so many of us need to answer. And that question, of course, is, how am I going to pay for my care? Now, the spectrum of your care can cover a wide arc of issues. That can start off with maybe a walker or a cane. That's the beginning of the process of needing care. It escalates to having somebody coming in the house to take care of you, to protect you, to make sure you're safe and you're getting your meds, that you're getting your meals, that you're getting treated properly, and somebody to keep an eye on you. And it escalates all the way through the continuum of care up to, like, perhaps going into independent living, perhaps going to an assisted living facility, perhaps thinking about a board and care, or perhaps, unfortunately, maybe a memory care unit. And it culminates at the far end of the spectrum with the prospect of having to use a nursing home. That would be convalescent care, long-term care. Now, along that arc, there are several different programs that may or may not apply to you that you would want to be able to utilize to help defray the cost, to answer the question of how am I going to pay for my care. Now, on the far end of the spectrum, of course, is Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal was signed into law the same day as Medicare back in 1965, signed into law by Lyndon Johnson, and the first person to receive Medicare health insurance for seniors, people 65 on up, was Harry Truman. But they also signed into law this other program called Medicaid. We call it Medi-Cal here in California. And the truth of the matter is that being in a nursing home can be excruciatingly expensive. Right now, in the current cost of care has reached a point that is almost a little hard to believe. The cost of, on average, for 1 month in a nursing home in California is currently $10,298 a month. $10,298 a month. That's over $120,000 a year. Now, that number is changed every year. They usually publish the new number somewhere around, each year it gets a little later, but somewhere between March and April. And pretty consistently, that number has gone up by an average of 5% a year. So you should anticipate, certainly the cost of care is going to go up in the future. It certainly has never gone down. I can tell you that when I first started doing this, and 25 years ago, the cost of care for being in a nursing home for a month was about $2,400. Now it's up to $10,000. So that number is flexible, it changes, and it can go probably up at the rate of about 5% a year. Now, Medi-Cal, very, very likely may have, for a middle-class family, be able and willing to pay for that care if you meet certain criteria. The criteria for this particular program, and Medi-Cal has many different aspects to it. There's lots and lots of different reasons that a person can access this program. But the number one way to swing open the door and determine whether or not you're going to be eligible for anything is to do the simple analysis that the federal government did when they set this program up, because it was set up to protect you in the event of a catastrophic illness. A catastrophic illness. Now, a catastrophic illness is not the severity of the illness. The catastrophic illness is a result of the economics of the illness. You see, when you go into a nursing home for long-term care, you have to be admitted by a physician. And that physician has made a determination that you do need, at a minimum, the care a nursing home provides on a 24-hour basis for you to be safe, for you to be treated properly, and for you to be cared for. And so the catastrophic illness test is actually a fairly simple one. The cost of your care, in this case $10,298 a month, is compared to your income. Your income. That's your Social Security, your pension, your required minimum distributions out of any retirement accounts like an IRA, dividends, interest. Your income will determine then whether or not you're eligible, because the test is the cost of your care more than your income? They haven't even considered your assets at this point, and now you're starting to see how the three-step process works. Step number one is, am I eligible? What is my income compared to the cost of my care? If you have an income in excess of $10,298 a month, you are not eligible for Medi-Cal. If, on the other hand, your income is less than $10,298 a month, you indeed are eligible for the benefit of Medi-Cal. Given that that's the case, then it becomes really important for you to understand how that program works, because it can become an extension of what you as a family have determined is the best way to pay for the care so that you can focus on the quality of the care. If you can focus on the quality of the care, then that is going to be less of a burden on you and your family. So you're listening to Elder Answers, and you're listening to Michael McGuire, Elder Law Attorney, sharing some information that can be very, very valuable for you and your family. It can be the key for you to get the quality of care you need and deserve and not go broke doing it. Now, you have several different avenues to access this information that's complete, accurate, up-to-date, that actually is the real story, that is so elusive for most consumers to be able to find out what's really going on when it comes to using public benefits to pay for their long-term care. And what we're talking about is with Medi-Cal, paying for a stay in a nursing home. A stay in a nursing home can wipe a middle-class family out. It can leave one spouse destitute and broke after having tried desperately to pay for the bill for the other spouse who was in the nursing home and needed that level of care. The level of care you just simply couldn't do at home because you can't lift the 225-pound man, that you can't really deal with the issues that you're being confronted with that should be dealt with in a medical environment that is supervised like a nursing home. And so what we've discovered and we've discussed is that there is something called a 3-step process. The first step was, am I eligible? That's your income analysis, if you remember now. That's your income. Is my income less than the cost of my care? That's the definition of a catastrophic illness. The next step is am I qualified? That's when they do an analysis over at Medi-Cal, and they take your assets and put it into 3 buckets: stuff I can keep, stuff I cannot keep, and stuff that I can keep if I do something, or if I have a retirement account. So let's take a look at what that analysis really applies to an average family. If it's a husband and wife, Ricky and Lucy, Ricky is going into the nursing home. Lucy is not. Ricky may only have $2,000 in his name. Lucy, on the other hand, currently can have a little more than $128,000 in her name, and that's a number that it will change. And you should always check in on the website, www.cal-elder-law.com, to see what the new current number is. It's usually published in the spring, sometime around March or April. The proposition then is that we need to go through all these assets to determine whether or not they offend the rules or not. And these are the assets. For instance, do you have a checking account? Do you have a savings account? Do you have a money market account? Do you have a certificate of deposit? Do you have a stock account? Do you have a bond account? Do you have a mutual fund? Do you have all those kind of investments over at a brokerage house? Do you have an annuity? Do you have life insurance with a cash value to it? And as we go down through this list, then we're starting to see that it's going to be a pretty detailed proposition as far as the state is concerned, whether or not they're going to write checks for $10,000 a month for you. But that should not put you off. That should be a proposition that you have addressed this issue prior to the crisis, the emergency. Even if you are in the emergency, you want to pick up the phone and call 760-422-0404 and get yourself over to consultation with an elder law attorney so we can go through your situation and determine what needs to be done to protect your funds. Now, they take the assets. Most of you have them in the name of husband and wife as joint tenants, or you have them in husband and wife as co-trustees of the husband and wife trust. So those assets are going to be combined currently. They are in the name of and under control of both of you. In the case of Ricky and Lucy, we have to get Ricky's name off of those accounts. He can only have $2,000. And so we go through that analysis, and that's in the cannot keep bucket. You cannot keep more of those kinds of assets. You can't keep gold coins or bullion. You can't keep anything of value like that. You can't keep rental properties. And so those things all have to be accounted for and presented to Medi-Cal in order for you to get your benefits. That's why you're going to need some help here to go through that list of those detailed issues because their rules are very, very specific over at Medi-Cal. The good news for you is that bucket, the you cannot keep bucket, legally you are allowed to take those assets and transfer them out of that bucket if and only if you follow the regulations that control transferring assets under Title 19 here in the state of California. And you can do that. But I've never found anybody that didn't really need some help with that process, given that you have a variety of different kinds of assets. You should think of this process as like taking a tax return and looking at it and say, okay, this is my gross income. What can I deduct? What are the deductions? Because you don't pay your taxes on the gross, you pay your taxes on the net. That's what you would be doing in determining whether or not you're qualified to receive that $10,000 in benefits every month from Medi-Cal.
The cost of long-term care for yourself or a loved one can be financially devastating, but you can avoid going broke. That's how the California Elder Law Center will help you. You can access long-term care benefits through the VA, Medi-Cal, and other sources. But the process of getting those benefits can be daunting. That's where attorney Mick McGuire and the California Elder Law Center come to the rescue. Whether facing a hospital stay, currently in a rehab facility, an assisted living facility, or nursing home, immediate help is available. So now's the time to schedule an appointment for a free consultation. Our office is safe and virus-free. Call 760-422-0404. That's 760-422-0404. You'll learn so much about how to resolve your elder issues. It goes beyond paying for long-term care. With the help of an attorney at the California Elder Law Center, you can avoid the expense and delays of probate. You can protect your home, your family, and your assets. The system is complicated and frankly not user-friendly. But when you work with an attorney specializing in elder law, it's all so much easier. Call 760-422-0404 for a free meeting in our safe, virus-free office. That's 760-422-0404. Online, search Cal Elder Law. That's Cal Elder Law, helping you get the care you need and deserve. The California Elder Law Center.
This is Michael McGuire, and you're listening to Elder Answers. And every day, we deal with the issues of people facing catastrophic illness, not just trying to get the quality of care they need and deserve, but to avoid being destroyed financially. Because at $10,000 a month, the cost on average of 1 month in a nursing home in California, which, by the way, is sort of middle of the pack around the country. Back on the East Coast, it's in the area of $14,000 to $15,000 a month. And you can expect here in California, eventually we will start catching up. The cost is enormous. It's the kind of a cost that you never contemplated, you never really thought about, because it was never really your issue until it becomes suddenly your issue. And usually we're caught a bit flat-footed because we haven't planned. And yet all we would have had to do was to pick up the phone and call 760-422-0404, arrange for a consultation, fill out an intake form to develop answers to these problems, and we could have gotten straight answers and known what to do. Now, we've talked about that middle bucket. If it was a married couple, Ricky and Lucy, with all those assets, they can only have $2,000 in Ricky's name and $128,000 as of today, which is a number that changes every year, goes up, in Lucy's name. If it's a single person, Ethel and Fred died, Ethel's a widow, she can only have $2,000 in her name. And so they go through those assets, checking accounts, savings accounts, stocks, money markets, mutual funds, annuities, rental properties, all sorts of gold coins, that sort of thing. They go through all that to see if you are in compliance with those numbers. Now, you do have the right to transfer them. You do have the right to transfer them, but you have to transfer them through a very, very stringent formula that they lay out within their regulations in 9808. So, that said, what's in the keep bucket? What am I allowed to keep? Well, you are allowed to keep your personal belongings. They don't value the personal belongings. They don't want to know how much your watch is worth. They don't care about that sort of thing. You are allowed to have up to $1,500 cash value in a life insurance policy. If you have more than the cash value of $1,500, you need to deal with that issue because it offends the rules. Many of you have life insurance policies that do have cash values. The good news for you is with some guidance, you can protect and keep those life insurance policies intact and at the same time qualify for Medi-Cal. You are permitted to keep your wedding band, which could be a diamond ring, and it could be a very expensive diamond ring. You're able to keep all of your jewelry, your artwork. You're able to keep one car entitled to your name, and you're entitled to keep your house. People are always surprised to hear this, that you are able to keep your house. Your house is treated as an exempt asset in California. That means they don't care what your house is worth. Now, if you have not taken steps to protect your house, however, when you pass away, they will put a lien on that property and they will recover every single dime that you have used for your care. And if you don't have the money right away, they'll slap a lien on that property. And if you refuse to cooperate and pay it, they will sue you, and you will be getting a lawsuit that comes from the Attorney General of the state of California. And you got to remember now, these are attorneys that work on a salary, so it doesn't make any difference to them. They got a job to do. And so how do you protect yourself? How do you protect your home? This is a really important issue. Everybody is desperate to protect their house, and there's a simple device. Using a trust currently in California now makes your home lien-proof. Just like it keeps you out of probate, using that trust now affords you the protection to make sure your home is never exposed to a lien from Medi-Cal. That's a new rule that went into effect in January of 2017. So many of you are not aware of that rule, but it's critically important to you. It can make all the difference in the world, one spouse to the other, and it can make all the difference in the world to your family as a legacy. I don't know how many times people would come in over the years and say, we got this letter from the state of California, and it says we owe $200,000. Is there some way we can protect that? And the answer is no. If you had come in the day before Mother passed away, the answer would have been yes. You don't want that to be visited upon your family. You want to protect your family. That's why you would probably want to call 760-422-0404 or go on the website, cal-elder-law.com, and look at what the regulations are and sit down and have a conversation about what the strategy is going to be to protect yourself and your family and to avoid the state of California gobbling up everything you work so hard for. This is Michael McGuire, elder law attorney, and you're listening to Elder Answers, brought to you by Cal Elder Law, the California Elder Law Center. We've been in business for over 25 years, addressing the needs of middle-class families up and down the state of California, helping them with accessing benefits, public benefits, to deal with the issue, the compelling issue of getting the quality of care that you need and deserve and not being destroyed financially, going broke doing it. This is not a giveaway program. This is not welfare. These programs were designed to protect middle-class families that have been paying into the system for years and years and years. If you've had a job in the United States since 1966, you have been paying into this program. And the program is Medi-Cal. Now, we've talked about a couple of different things. There's a bucket of your assets, the ones you cannot keep, you must transfer and protect. There's a bucket of assets that you can keep and includes your home, but you still must protect the house. You cannot just think that because you own a house, it's not going to be subject to a lien, because it will be if you have not protected it. And there's a third bucket, and that's you can keep it if the asset happens to be a retirement account. Think typically an IRA. Any kind of a retirement account of that, a 401k that's rolled into an IRA, that sort of thing. As it turns out, the state of California has been very generous in dealing with its senior citizens and saying that you can keep those accounts. you can keep them. They are not going to be subjected to the proposition that you can have no more than $2,000 in your name. You could have literally $2,000 in a checking account. That's all the money you have. That's all that you have in the way of accountable asset. You could have a home. It could be worth a lot of money. You get to keep that if it's inside of a trust. And you could have an IRA. You could have a very large IRA, and you can keep every penny of that money to pay for your care, to pay for your spouse, or to be as a legacy for your family. So there's three assets that you want to know about, isn't it? You want to know that, can I keep them? The answer is yes. And you want to know, how do I go about doing that? And that's the reason why people want to come in and sit down with an elder law attorney in our office and find out, what exactly do I have to do? What exactly are my assets, and how do they fall into these three buckets? We've had people with very, very large retirement accounts that have been shocked and pleased and excited at the proposition that they can keep that money. They can keep that money to provide for their care. They can keep that money to provide for their care. It may be someday because it'll roll over to their spouse to take care of their spouse. And that they can keep that money so that if whatever they have not used would go as a legacy to their children, to their families. Just like wealthy people get to pass on nice legacies to their families, it would be nice for a middle-class, hardworking family that has put aside money and it ended up in an IRA that they knew that it would be safe and they could keep it, even if the tragedy of a long-term care illness means that they're going to have to pay $10,000 a month. Well, rather than pay the $10,000 a month, they can apply to Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal will pay for that $10,000 a month of care and allow them to keep that IRA account. Now, this is all a question of having information that is current, that is accurate, that is doable. And how do I go about doing it? How do I protect myself? How do I protect my spouse? How do I get to keep the large IRA? We've had people that have had very large IRAs that were able to hang on to them. Or the spouse, who was the well spouse at home, had a very, very big IRA that was protected and did not count. And then the spouse who was in, and I can think of several times who had dealt with the issue of an automobile accident. Somebody was in a subacute facility that cost $18,000 a month. And they had been in there and were going to be in there for the rest of their lives. And you're talking about people that had been there for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You're talking about people who will tell me that, oh yeah, I remember by Medi-Cal, my grandmother, we had to put her in a nursing home. And so we had to sell her house and we spent all the money at the nursing home. And then when she ran out of money, then the nursing home put her on Medi-Cal. And of course, the family didn't see a dime. And that was completely unnecessary. She could have kept every penny for herself, for her care, and then she could have had a nice little legacy for her children, her grandchildren perhaps. And it was all because she didn't have information. I don't know how many times we've seen that people are shocked to find out that their mother may be a widow, and because she's a widow, she can only have $2,000, but that does not mean we can't protect all the other assets that your mother and your father worked so hard to pull together. We can do that, and we can use that money to upgrade the quality of the person's care, because we know people in nursing homes do not get quality of care. That's not me talking. That's the federal government that reviews every single nursing home in the United States talking. Only 8% of people get adequate care in nursing homes. As a direct result, you have to supplement that care. You have to be prepared to do that, to assure that you're going to be safe, you're going to be treated well, and you're going to have the ability to perhaps even get better and come home someday. It doesn't often work that way, but it's good to know that you're going to get the quality of care you need, and you can't be destroyed financially simply because you didn't know the rules. So what you did was you called 760-422-0404, and you found out the information.
The cost of long-term care for yourself or a loved one can be financially devastating, but you can avoid going broke. That's how the California Elder Law Center will help you. You can access long-term care benefits through the VA, Medi-Cal, and other sources. But the process of getting those benefits can be daunting. That's where attorney Mick McGuire and the California Elder Law Center come to the rescue. Whether facing a hospital stay, currently in a rehab facility, an assisted living facility, or nursing home, immediate help is available. So now's the time to schedule an appointment for a free consultation. Our office is safe and virus-free. Call 760-422-0404. That's 760-422-0404. You'll learn so much about how to resolve your elder issues. It goes beyond paying for long-term care. With the help of an attorney at the California Elder Law Center, you can avoid the expense and delays of probate. You can protect your home, your family, and your assets. The system is complicated and frankly not user-friendly. But when you work with an attorney specializing in elder law, it's all so much easier. Call 760-422-0404 for a free meeting in our safe, virus-free office. That's 760-422-0404. Online, search Cal Elder Law. That's Cal Elder Law, helping you get the care you need and deserve. The California Elder Law Center.
This is Michael McGuire, elder law attorney with the California Elder Law Center. Today we have a real treat here on Elder Answers. Joining us is Patricia Ryan, who is a nurse practitioner, and her organization is called Crossroads to Care. Patty, thanks for joining us, and welcome to Elder Answers.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, what I'm going to do is have a conversation with you for our audience to get a little bit of an idea of what to expect when you're using the services of a nurse practitioner to supplement care, to manage care. And so I'm going to ask you, why don't you give us an example of maybe some of your cases and how it turned out based upon your services?
Okay, I'll start with one gentleman that has been my patient now for at least over a year. And when I first met him, he was in the emergency room and had to have emergency surgery, which was pretty extensive. His wife called me, wanted to understand the surgery a little bit better, understand what they could expect from the surgery before, while he was still in the hospital, and then after the surgery with recovery, and ideally return back to his home.
Okay, so this is somebody that you had talked to prior to him having the event of having to go to the hospital.
Yes, I had met him in his house before he was this was a scheduled surgery. It was not just an emergency situation.
Now, Patty, when we're talking about these cases, we're usually talking about coming up with some kind of a relationship with a family so that when a crisis like going to the hospital and the surgery is that this relationship has been initiated prior to the emergency taking place.
100%. It's the best idea is for me to already be familiar with the person individually, because what'll help, not only knowing their past medical history, but coupling that with their relationships, their home dynamic, how much they're able to do on their own, or if they already have help in the home, how involved maybe their siblings or children are. All of that really plays more of a psychosocial aspect of how well they're going to heal after and what to expect during the hospitalization.
Sure. So what we're really talking about here in the Coachella Valley is often the case is that you have a senior or a senior couple, and they are usually removed from their immediate family. Their family lives somewhere else, and the nurse practitioner, the concierge service, the Patricia Ryan services really acts as a surrogate for the family here to, keep an eye on everything, but to also to bring that level of expertise that otherwise you would never get.
That's an excellent point. Yes, a number of my clients do have family outside of the Valley. Sometimes they're in California, but most times they're not. And it's difficult for them to travel to see maybe their, parents.
Right.
When an incident like this happens, it's better to have someone here in the Valley that's available, can step in and say, okay, look, I am the patient's surrogate. I am speaking on behalf of the patient. And this is the past medical history. This is where we're going from here.
The other thing we've seen over the years in practicing elder law and having the opportunity to address the needs of elderly clientele and families is the the imperative that we have some level of continuity, because these kinds of issues are going to take place. They go to the hospital, they go to rehab, they go maybe to a nursing home for recuperation, and so, or they go home. And so having that continuity of a medical expert in your corner is going to make all the difference in the world. So describe to me a little bit about how your relationship with that client would move through that chain of events. Hospital, you're there to sort of be their eyes and ears. And now let's go over to like the rehab. What happens when a client has to go to a rehab unit?
Okay, so we'll start at the hospital, and that's a good spot. Usually, I've met with the patient beforehand, and let's say, for example, this is a voluntary surgery. So maybe they fell down, they broke their arm, and now they had to wait till the fracture, the swelling went down, and now they're scheduled to have surgery on Tuesday. So what's good about having that preparation is I can meet them ahead of time. I can speak to the family. We can make sure we have a current list of their medications, as well as any kind of advance directive or healthcare proxy in place, because when they go to the hospital, they'll ask for that information. I can educate them what the surgery is about. I can talk with their family members about that as well. We can really make sure that the pre-op orders are followed, that everything is kind of lined up and prepared for surgery. Afterwards, if we use the same analogy of broken arm or leg, they would then be transferred from the hospital acute care setting to a rehabilitation or a skilled facility for physical therapy prior to, ideally, returning back to their home.
So if they did go straight home, that would mean that your services would still continue, wouldn't it?
Yes, actually, I would be instrumental in helping them transition from the hospital setting to their home setting, making sure, again, that the medications are up to date and appropriate. That's another thing that happens quite a bit, that people, there tends to be a drop in communication of, I was on 1, 2, 3 medications before the hospital. Then I had surgery, and now I'm on 5, 6, 8 medications, and I'm not real familiar with what these are. It may be making the patient a little cloudy. They're not in the same mental capacity that they were in before. So having an expert really review those medications and make sure each step along the way is appropriate for that patient. Because what happens is, people get lazy, they may not read completely, the communication drops with all these people involved, from pre-op to surgery to surgeon to post-op. Things get kind of missed along the way. So having someone that understands the hospital program, understands the surgery, and most importantly, understands that particular patient.
That's the key, isn't it?
That is the overwhelming key. Because they'll just give you XYZ form that could match a 50-year-old, a 59-year-old, an 80-year-old. And those, each individuals at different stages have different issues themselves.
So would you describe part of your services as you're like an interpreter or a buffer between the medical system and the client and the patient, to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as the fastest, most efficient recovery for this guy?
Sure. Not only that, you could say it that way. I like to consider it as a very knowledgeable medical bridge between the hospital that has nothing to do with or understands anything outside of that building. Because the rules are different at an assisted living, the rules are different at a rehab or a skilled facility, and the rules are different at home. So, they give you discharge instructions for blanket place, but each place is individualized. And it may not meet the criteria for that patient.
I think we can probably safely say everybody would most optimally do their recovery at home, in the comfort of their home.
That's the best.
That's the best. But in order to make that work right, we need somebody there that's keeping an eye on what's going on and make sure the care is appropriate.
Correct. Now, that's a good point, because if a patient comes home, let's say for example, they want to go back to their home, which I completely advocate, the hospital will set up some type of home care service. The nurse will come in once a week. They may have a home care person come in 3 times a week. But again, it's same at the facility where you might have availability for 24-hour care, but how that care is and what really that consists of is completely different from staying in your own house, being comfortable there, and having, your partner or your spouse with you.
Sure.
I would make sure that the orders are completely followed through for their home, and be there really when the home care comes to be assessed. And I'll give you a quick story about this.
Sure.
The patient I mentioned earlier, he had extensive surgery and went home with a fairly complicated dressing. So he went home with a fairly complicated dressing, with orders from the surgeon, and the home care came to assess. I was there when the home care nurse was there, and she went on to explain to me that the spouse was supposed to be doing this dressing change because the nurse only comes once a week, but the dressing change orders was daily. And the spouse is blind.
That could be a real impediment to trying to change your dressing.
It would make it a little difficult.
Yes.
A little difficult.
So this is the kind of an example that somehow the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing in the medical system, isn't it?
Constant.
Yeah.
Constant.
And that's not just inconvenient. That can actually be lethal.
That can be severely detrimental.
Right. So really what we're talking about is the quality of care, quality of life, and why having somebody with your expertise can sort of ride herd over this process to make sure that we have all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted for the benefit of the patient.
Absolutely. And knowing the home environment and what the capabilities and maybe even restrictions, like this case, is there, which would help. I can help adjust that, all for the benefit of the patient.
So far, in trying to describe these kinds of services, in this particular case, was your engagement with this family go on for months or for weeks or for days, or how did that work?
Well, he has many ongoing medical issues, and he is still my patient today. We're still working on the wound. Like I said, when he was first discharged, it was dramatic. It has done much better. He is up walking now. We also do some physical therapy, and we do aquatherapy. Oh. So he's really strengthening and has made great strides.
Okay. Well, how about letting us know how to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can, there's a couple ways. You can go to my website at crossroads2care.com, and you can see me there and see my services. You can also give me a call. I'm right here in the Valley. I am local. I see all patients here in Coachella Valley from Palm Springs to Indio. My phone number is area code 760-668-1654.
Well, Patty, thank you very much for spending your time and sharing your insights with us, and we look forward to having you back on the show very soon.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding program was a paid presentation from the California Elder Law Center. The information and opinions expressed herein are solely those of the California Elder Law Center and not the opinions of KNews, Alpha Media, management, or employees.